Well, here we are back.
Good afternoon.
Round number 2.
Yes, sir.
The afternoon session. So, hey, great session this morning. I just wanted to touch back on it just briefly, but your story. Well, first, let's start with the song. That was incredible.
Madison Jackson. Wow. I have several comments already on my phone. People brought tears to people's eyes and things like that. But what a great way to display, teen. And
yeah.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I've listened to that song probably like 15 times, is getting ready. And it brings tears to my eyes. Many people that know me know that I'm that kind of person. But Michael De Leon, yeah, wow.
He does his homework. He does his, he travels. Yeah. He gets the facts, man. He brings it. And, one of the biggest things is not only his story is incredible, Matt, but him impacting our youth and students and family and parents. Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that.
And then your story. I mean, your story is so impactful. I'm such a big believer in peer-to-peer counseling, and that, you have to have walked the walk and talked the talk and been there to be able to share something like as powerful as you did, which is incredible.
Yeah. So, like I said in the one-on-one interview, the stories and connecting with people, people can relate. It's all about making those connections. It's all about sharing experiences.
Yeah, it really is. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kick off the afternoon session. We have some great, we have the top nonprofits, the top people in this business speaking in this afternoon session.
All-star lineup. These individuals work on a global level.
Yeah.
Not just their state, not just the country, but on a global level. And I am excited. Matt, you and I both have been talking about this for 30 days straight, and we can't be more excited about the information that you are fixing to receive on different ways to impact your community.
Absolutely. And I'm excited about just the relationships that we're building. And it takes, we ended talking about, how Michael De Leon said, and you said it takes a village, right? It takes a village to build a community to really take care of people. All right. So what are we going to do? How are we going to start this? We're going to start with a story.
So absolutely. I couldn't have this event without sharing a message of hope and support and how people, find their way out of substance abuse and how they connect. This thing called substance abuse impacts people in so many different ways. It looks different for everybody. But once one person gets addicted, it's not a spectator sport. Everybody gets to play the game of substance abuse and addiction and things like that. So to have somebody come out of struggles and things like that and start living a sustainable recovery life is important. These are just this individual that's leading us off, Aaron Howard. I met him down in Raleigh, North Carolina last year, and it was an overdose awareness day down there, and him and I connected immediately. And I am honored to have him on to open up our second session with his story of recovery.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing before I kick to his story. I just saw somebody post something. All of this is recorded. I just want to make this point real quick. All of this is recorded, so there will be access to it afterwards. There also will be access. Let's touch on one more thing. Let's touch on this, although we're in the resource. Okay. Touch on that real quick one more time. But this will be recorded, and people can go in and watch it later and share it as well.
Absolutely. This thing's going to live on and live on. This is the certificate of completion here that we are asking your teens, your youth, your middle school, high school students to click on. It's very easy. Matt's got a wonderful YouTube video there that just walks you right through how to print this, screenshot it, whatever, submit it to your school teachers, administrators, principals. If y'all are watching and they submit this, let them get hours of service, let them get the certificate of completion. And that goes for everybody. We'd love for you guys to do that. That's what this thing is about.
Yeah, and students are struggling right now to get service hours, right? So that's a great way to give them service hours, let them print the certificate and send it in. Also pick up your phone this afternoon and share it. Share us on Facebook. Let a lot of people just learn about this. Let's let this message go live. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to watch Aaron. So let me.
Absolutely.
All right, here we go.
Hey, my name is Aaron Howard. My sobriety date is June 5th, 2019. I have a sponsor. He has a sponsor, and I have the privilege of sponsoring other men. First off, I just want to thank Eric and everybody who put this on for the amazing opportunity is to kind of share a little bit of my story and what I get to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and just the opportunity to be able to help in any way, shape I can. I could sit here and explain or try to break down my story coming up, but it's kind of, relative to most people. My parents divorced when I was real young. I just didn't feel accepted as I grew up. It eventually got to the point where around 15 or 16 years old, I started drinking and smoking just to feel accepted. And once I was able to get that feeling for the first time, it was kind of euphoria. It was like, oh, everything's much better like this. I fit in. Everybody accepts me. I was able to talk to people. I was able to talk to girls. It was just, I thought that I had finally found the cure to, or the solution to my problem. And it just continued on like that for a while, and to the point where that just wasn't good enough. And I had to find another solution to the problem. So yeah, started getting into harder drugs. It was cocaine, it was opiates, it was heroin. And the next thing you know, the only thing that could get into my body quick enough was the needles. And I was addicted to opiates and heroin for, gosh, the better part of 10 to 15 years until, just last year. And at age 31, I was using from the ages 16 to 30. And it wasn't fun, because eventually the solution became the problem. And then I had to figure out another solution, because no matter how hard I tried, no matter what I was putting in my body, it didn't seem to fix anything anymore. And I just kind of felt lost. It started where I was lying everything. It was me stealing, robbing my mom, robbing my dad, robbing my girlfriend, ended up robbing my wife, lying to my in-laws, my parents, lying to her, everything, and throughout this time, I kept it pretty quiet. I kept a good facade going. I became a successful business owner, well, had a successful job, had a successful career, but it was all built on such a rocky structure and foundation that it was only a matter of time before it crumbled to the ground. And that's exactly what happened. Nothing was sustainable because of how I lived my life and used, to keep things quiet. It was to the point where I had to wake up at 3 a.m. just to use again, to be able to go to sleep, just to wake up 4 hours later to use again to get through my day. And it just was not in any way sustainable whatsoever. Eventually it got to the point where I broke down and asked for help. And it was the hardest thing I ever had to do, was to ask for help, because that was the first time I had to admit that I had a problem. And after that, I went straight to detox and got into a program and, went from there. And I only do things 100%. That's how I did drugs. And that's how I wanted to do my sobriety, 110%, all in or not at all. And the simple fact is I knew that with the problem that I had and my mentality and my personality, I had to go all in, or there was no sticking to this thing. And so as soon as I was able to get out of detox and go full force, I went to meetings, I joined a program, I did anything and everything I could to be surrounded by the right people, because the simple fact of the matter is the 5 people you hang out with most, that's exactly who you become. And I knew that going in, so I knew what I had to do. I ended up going to every organization, every event that I could. Ended up going to an overdose awareness rally, because honestly, I've had friends overdose in my arms and not come back. I've had friends overdose in front of me and not come back. I've seen so many people overdose. I'm lucky to have overdose and then was able to come out of it, which is not always the case. I ended up meeting Eric at a rally and really bonded with the 108 challenge. I too played collegiate baseball and was not able to continue on with that because things were holding me back. And me and Eric really became good friends. We shared each other's story, and it was one of the most amazing things I'd ever heard. I love the fact that he is out there on the front lines 100%, 100 of the time, and that's something that I myself do. And it's gotten to the point where I realize that this is never going to be something that I'm going to be able to take a break from. You know, whenever I first got sober, it kind of freaked me out thinking of being sober for 5 years, being sober for 10 years. It was just something that I could not even fathom. But somebody told me early on, like, Aaron, can you stay sober for 24 hours? And I was like, yes, I can do that. Well, that's all you have to do. And I'm here to tell you that's all you have to do now. If you can just stay sober for 24 hours, we'll worry about the next 24 hours when this is done. If you can just stay sober 24 hours at a time, that's all it takes. You know, someone else told me early on, like, you do not have to use any more. It's okay. And that was something that I did not believe. And now it's starting to come full force and full circle. And now I get to tell other people that and share that experience and that strength and the hope that comes along with that. I never thought I could put a week together, let alone coming up on the better part of the year. It's just super exciting for me. And you know, the fact that I get to help people do the same thing now is just unimaginable. It's something I would never been able to see in my future. You know, every day is going to bring new opportunity and new struggles, but both of those come with new blessings to be able to, you know, fight through and conquer. And it's an everyday struggle, but it's an everyday victory as well. And that's what gets me through it. You know, I'm not saying that things are going to be easy being sober, because I've made just as many mistakes sober, some worse than I was while I was using. But the simple fact of the matter is that I now know how to handle that without picking up a drink or drug. Because now every time I feel like I need to pick up a drink or a drug, instead, I pick up the phone. I call my sponsor. I call people in my network. I call people that's been there, done that. People that have a little more experience than me, that can pour strength and hope into me, just so I have enough in my cup to pour in someone else's cup. You know, the fact of the matter is, with everything going on in our country right now, it's sad. It really is. And don't think that I'm trying to downplay that whatsoever. But statistically speaking, you are so much more likely to die from this disease than the outbreak that's going on right now. And that's the honest truth. So the fact that Eric and everybody affiliated with this event going on right now, it's amazing, because no matter what's going on out there, this is still an everyday struggle for many people like you and me. And the only way that we're going to be able to get through this is together. And that's the only way I've been able to go through with it. And me personally, I would not have been able to go through it by myself. You might be able to go through it by yourself. I totally understand that, but I wouldn't recommend it. I recommend locking arms with someone, getting into a program, surround yourself with people that know what's going on and been there, done that. Because personally, I take more advice wholeheartedly from someone that's been through it just like I have. You know, once again, I just want to thank everybody that is put on this event. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to come in, share, and just shed a little bit of light on such a dark, diminishing disease. And I'm not talking about COVID-19. My name is Aaron Howd. And if anybody wants to reach out, you can email me at howdaaron@gmail.com. It's just my last name and my first name. Remember, it's just 24 hours at a time. You can do this.
Wow. I mean, listen, you know, thank you, Aaron, for being a part of this and sharing your story, because, you know, you see, again, what we're getting ready to get into this afternoon is, you know, we're bringing resources together. We're showing people how they can tap in, and just doing great things. That was an amazing story.
Yeah, Aaron, thank you so much. You know, I think that Michael and Amy and the list of speakers that are fixing to come on, those of you in the professional field out there, I think the importance of having these stories is critical and crucial, because it reminds us why we do what we do. It reminds us that recovery is possible. It reminds us not to give up.
Yeah.
And Aaron is that individual that I've connected with. It's about the connection. You heard him say it. And again, just can't thank you enough, Aaron, for being a part of that. Thank you, folks, and allowing him to share your story.
Yeah. I mean, so we call it in the military, you know, we call it having a battle buddy. And, you know, one of the the organizations I work with, JTF 22-0, they call it having a battle buddy. And that's just what it made me think about when Aaron was talking about being able to reach out to somebody, being able to reach out to that sponsor, that person, that who are you accountable to? Because, you know, somebody in recovery, it's not easy, right? Right. And you have to have resources.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Putting yourself around people and staying connected is really key.
Yeah. So let's keep going, because this is just amazing that we have the next person, you know, on our platform, willing to come in and be a part of this. I mean, this is just such an honor. And I'm going to say that for everybody as we keep going through. I'll say that every time, but this is really awesome. And, you know, I loved interviewing her.
We don't want to sound like a broken record. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, you know, the lineup that doesn't get much stronger than this. These are individuals that I have come to know personally. Matt has interviewed, they have come on and supported the 108 Challenge Live along with Convene Communities. And we couldn't be more excited to have Amy RONSHAUSEN, the executive director from Drug Free America. Met her in 2019 at the Drug Prevention Summit down in Tampa, Florida. If you want to learn more about Drug Free America, click on their link logo inside the platforms. Learn about what they do, one of the largest nonprofits in our country. And Amy has been in this her entire life. So real quick, Amy RONSHAUSEN is the executive director of Drug Free America Foundation, also Save Our Society from Drugs, SOS, a national nonprofit organizations that work to defeat drug legalizations, attempts, promote sound drug policies, and prevent drug abuse and addiction. So without further ado, Amy RONSHAUSEN, the executive director of Drug Free America.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Curran. I'm here with Amy. Amy, how are you doing today?
Doing great, thanks.
Doing well, good. I'm so glad that you're on the show with us today and on this 108 Challenge Summit where everybody's watching you. So tell us just a little bit about yourself and what brought you to work for Drug Free America.
Great. So my name is Amy, and I've been with Drug Free America for about 12 years, almost 13. And we're based here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I came actually from a drug court. So here in Pinellas County, we have a really large drug court where we link defendants, both juvenile and adult, with different treatment services in order to keep them out of jail. And before that, I worked at a juvenile treatment facility. So I've kind of been in this drug world for all of my adult life, and landed at Drug Free America Foundation because it gave me the opportunity to work both in the prevention field, but also in the drug policy field.
Oh, wow. So if you're explaining to the audience today that's watching, what is the mission of Drug Free America? What exactly do you guys do?
Sure. So Drug Free America is a drug prevention and drug policy organization who's committed to developing strategies that prevent drug use, but also promote treatment and sustained recovery. So our mission, kind of a blanket statement, is just to rid the world of the burdens of drug abuse. And, you know, our vision is a world where all people live free from that burden.
Yeah. And so we all know it's a big burden, right? So how, if you're looking at it from what you guys doing from a data standpoint, from a policy standpoint, how big of a problem is this within the U.S.?
Oh, it's huge. And it's not just the US, it's global. So one of the great things with Drug Free America Foundation is we are a non-government organization that has special consultative status with the Economic and Social Union of the United Nations. And that's a mouthful, but what that is that we get to work on this issue at the global level as well. So we like to think, like when we talk about things at the UN, we talk about, thinking globally, but acting locally. So looking at what's happening at this global drug epidemic, and that's what it is, it's everywhere. How can we take what's happening at the global level and bring it down to a community level so that we can make positive changes? And a lot of that is providing the data. One of the things that I hear all the time from our youth is that they believe that everybody's doing drugs. We put these surveys out there every year. We ask kids in school to complete these surveys, but often we don't tell them the results of the survey. And the results are that the majority of people don't use drugs. Yeah. So even though the perception is that everybody's out there doing it, the reality is you're not, you are the majority. So how do we lift up that majority, and what can we do to help them, really showcase all the great things that they're doing by not using drugs.
Well, that's actually interesting to me. So how do you do that? How do you get that message across? What's the message that you try to push?
I think that it's just a message of positivity. So instead of always talking about the problem, let's talk about some of the solutions. Let's talk about the great things that youth are doing. So instead of saying 17% of 12th graders in this high school have used marijuana once in their lifetime, let's talk about the larger percent that never have, and let's showcase some of the activities that they're doing. I love hearing from youth and hearing about the things that they're doing in their community. It doesn't have to be anti-drug related. As long as you're not using drugs, guess what? That's anti-drug. So if you're going out and you're being a peer resource for kids that are younger for you, you're making a difference in somebody's life. If you're going to help a veteran out who can't maybe do his yard work or can't grocery shop, and at a time like this where we're all so disconnected, if you're that link that's connecting your neighbors by just saying hi and sharing hope and joy, you might be making a huge difference that you didn't even know that was happening. So it's just lifting up people who are doing positive things, which is the majority of youth today.
Yeah, I think you're right. So I have 3 kids. I have a son who's 23, a daughter who's 20 at UNC Chapel Hill, and I have a 16-year-old daughter who's still in high school, right? So I truly believe in your message of what y'all are getting out, because the good that people are doing, and I'm a veteran, right? So you hit home with me right there about what are the great things, and there's so much positive that our youth, they're doing today. They're out there making a difference. They, all of our youth are a lot of times are involved in those service clubs. So what can the service clubs do to make a difference? And I think that that's just a great message that y'all have.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So how did you get to know Eric Burgiss and the 108 Challenge?
So it was actually just through, and that's the great thing about community outreach.
Yep.
Once people learn what you do for a living, especially when you're involved in the drug world, everybody has a story. And like I said, I've been in this for a couple decades now, and it used to be that I would tell people what I did, and sometimes they'd have a story, but most of the time it was just like, oh, that's great. Now you can hardly get the word drug prevention out of your mouth before somebody is telling you, oh, my neighbor's child, or I lost my loved one. I mean, everybody is so connected. So one of my husband's colleagues grew up with Eric and knew Eric. So when she found out what I did, and we had been talking, and I guess Eric had reached out to her, and she connected us both. And she's like, I know you guys are both kind of in the same field, but I'm not sure how this works, and I just want to put you two together. So we had a great conversation on the phone, and I invited Eric to come out last year. Each year we host a huge drug prevention summit here in the Tampa Bay area. Yep. And he came out to our 7th annual, I believe it was, and he told his story about the 108 Challenge and his story of recovery. And we just like to hear stories about that, because when we do our prevention summit, it's a train the trainer. So it's a lot of professionals in there. And sometimes we get a little overburdened. Yeah. And we kind of lose our focus, and we wonder, why are we doing this? There's that sense of hopelessness. Yeah. And then we hear a story like Eric's, and we remember why we're inspired to be in this position. And if his message, or if us bringing him somewhere, if that changes just one person's life, just one person, and has a positive, it was a job worth doing, a life worth living. You change that one person, and I have to believe that after all of this and all these years and all of these things that we're doing, and connecting with groups like Eric's, that we've at least reached that one person, but hopefully thousands of more.
Yeah, absolutely. And his story is so inspiring. You're so right. It's so inspiring, just the path that he's walked. And I remember I had just met him when he was actually getting ready to go down and speak at you guys' summit. And he was really excited about it. And he was excited to tell the story about what he was able to go down there and do, and how he was able to speak down there. And I just think it's a wonderful platform that you guys put on. So I have my degree in counseling, mental health counseling and all that. And so I know how hard it is to go through that education piece, and just to learn how to be in that situation when you're talking to somebody. So that's one of the reasons I think I've connected so well with Eric, is just to see such a success story. because we've all been, if you live in that world, we've all been, or we've all dealt with or had people that we've worked with who are walking that walk and talking that talk. And how can you help them out, you know? And to see Eric, somebody who's going on that path and who's really, you know, staying on that path. And he'll tell you every day it's still a struggle. He'll tell you every day that he's working through that. So, you know, what you guys do is so, so important. Talk a little bit about that summit. You know, y'all do it once a year down there.
Yeah, so this was our 8th year, and this year we were so blessed to have the opportunity to have the U.S. Surgeon General be our keynote speaker. So we had Jerome Adams was here, and we were just all starstruck. I mean, it was just to have that. But I have to be honest, every year we get what I call our dream team of speakers. And each year it gets harder because we're trying to outdo what we did. But it's a sometimes 3-day, sometimes 2-day summit where we provide continuing education credits for people who are getting their prevention certificates, that are in mental health or marriage counseling or substance abuse counseling. And really, it's just to kind of give them an update on current drug trends, an update on new research that's out there, and then also showcase some programs that are working. This year, we had an amazing youth group that came from somewhere in Idaho,
Oh, wow.
and they were talking about what was lacking in their community, when it came to a place where youth could come together. And instead of complaining about it, they made the program themselves. So there was something out there that was a good fit with them. And they do everything from, you know, game nights to volunteer services, and they do mental health things, they do substance abuse issue things, you know, so they're covering anything that could possibly impact that came today, and they're doing it in somewhere in creative ways. And bringing in groups like that to show what's going on and the different things that you can replicate in your community, we just really feel is important.
So, which is great because Drug Free America, y'all are really an integrator, bringing different programs, different people together. And that's why it was so important for Eric and for me as Convene to have you guys as one of the main sponsors, one of the main participants in this, you know, 108 Challenge Live event, because we know how important it is. It takes a village, right? It takes not just, you know, one organization or Eric over here, Drug Free America over here, or Steered Straight with Michael Daly on here. It takes a whole village, like that school, right? So we really appreciate you being a part of this. And so how can we work together better? How can we build a community? And you know, that's a leading question, right? Because we're talking about Convene communities, and one of the communities is Convene Hope and Support. And the whole purpose of Convene Hope and Support, led by Eric Burgiss, is to bring together all the resources that we possibly can in one spot, as well, not just one spot, but, you know, in one place that we can all work together.
Absolutely, you have to do that. And it really, it amazes me that every time I go out into the community, there is a lack of understanding of what is out there and what resources are available. And that's a shame, because there are so many great resources that are going untapped and unnoticed and unused. Yeah. And we are just not big on recreating the wheel.
Yeah, that's right.
Usually when we think of something, we're like, oh, we have this really great idea. We just Google and find, oh, well, somebody else had that great idea. Let's look and see what they're doing. Let's talk with them. Let's work with them. Let's see, you know, is there a piece of their puzzle that's missing that we can maybe add to? But having these, especially community coalition meetings, I guess, for a lack of a better term, and really showcasing what's out there, especially right now. And one of the things that I know that you're going to be talking about later on in the show is telehealth. And I think that right now, now more than ever, such an important resource. And, you know, I learn more about that every single time that I speak to these people about these different services. And I just think that it's such a key component to what's going on right now, to link people to people that their services might have been discontinued because they can't get out of the house. Yeah. Also, what a great opportunity to reach people who haven't started that yet, who might have been a little uncomfortable with going to a group or letting other people know that they needed to speak to a counselor. Now you have this opportunity to do it all virtually and really kind of dip your foot in that pool and see if it's for you and get the help that you need. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I want to bring up about Convene that is so important is that there is anonymity to it. So anybody and everybody, like, we don't want to share our dirt when we're going through something that is, depression or drug addiction or some sort of addiction. It doesn't always have to be drug or alcohol related. It can be anything. Well, maybe we want to reach out and get some help, but we're scared. We don't want to put ourselves out there. So one of the things that we do within Convene is there's people that come in and write experiences about their battles with depression, their battles with alcoholism. Well, they have the opportunity to do that as themselves, or they can do it anonymously. When people are responding in the questions, they're doing it as themselves, or they're doing it anonymously. They're doing it anonymously. When they get to the discussion boards, they can do it as themselves or anonymously. So it's so important just finding a way that we can all reach out and help, because there's a lot of good organizations out there, a lot of good experts out there. That's what they're there to do. They want to help. They want to be a part of the growth process to really help you through.
Absolutely. And we can't do it alone. Drug Free America can't be the only organization out there that's advocating for sound drug policy or that's developing prevention materials. People see us coming from a mile away and they're like, oh, it's the drug prevention people. But when we come with a whole bunch of other groups who have the same mission, they might not even be an anti-drug coalition. It might just be a group of volunteers, or better yet, a group of students. I mean, nobody listens more to what we say than when we bring a group of youth with us, because that's who people want to hear from. So when we can engage our youth and when we can give them the information that they need to digest, to talk about this at their level and in their own words, that's what makes change in our communities. So it's empowering different groups, especially our youth groups.
Well, Amy, I couldn't have summed it up any better. That was wonderful the way you just ended that, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring together our youth. We're trying to bring together those organizations that are here to help others. And Drug Free America is leading the charge. So I could not appreciate you more or say thank you enough than being a part of the 108 Challenge Live. Speaking on behalf of Eric Burgiss and myself, I really thank you for being a part of this.
Well, thank you. It really is an honor for us. We're really happy to be here.
And tell everybody real quick where, if they want to go find Drug Free America, where can they go find Drug Free America?
Super easy. It's www.dfaf, as in drugfreeamericafoundation.org.
Okay, that's good. And hopefully we'll have a group with Drug Free America and Convene soon, so that where we link it all together. But Amy, thank you so much. It's been wonderful, and I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Another amazing resource.
Absolutely. Matt, I want to comment, about Drug Free America and Amy RONSHAUSEN. You can go back inside the platform. You can click on their logo to learn more about them.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to go and join them, I want to say, and Amy can correct me if I'm wrong later, but every February they put on that drug prevention summit. And if you have an opportunity to get down there, you need to attend that. You want to talk about resources and speakers and connecting and networking and learning new and innovative ways and cutting edge technology and things like that. They lead the way in it. And
Absolutely.
Her heart and passion, that the energy she brings to what she does is absolutely phenomenal. So just thank you so much, Amy and Drug Free America, for being a part of what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, Amy's, Drug Free America, they're leading the charge here in America. It's incredible what they're doing, and it's been, for me, it's been just an honor meeting her. It's been an honor getting to know her. Amy, don't forget about me. I want to come to Tampa and be one of your speakers. I'm just going to throw that out there, but I had to just get that in there.
Hang out in the crowd.
And Eric's coming with me.
I'll be right there.
But if you're, I know we have a couple of mental health counselors. We have a couple of counselors that are on watching. Patty Moeller, you need to meet us down there, because that's a great thing. As a counselors, you're working with this all the time. It's just a problem that we have. So just going and learning what Drug Free America has to offer, and it's just great. So let's transition to the next speaker. Thank you, Amy. Thank you so
Amy.
much. So the next speaker, go ahead, take it away.
So Wendy, DANICOURT. This is actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a really good friend of Amy's, and was able to hear her speak when I was there visiting Tampa as well. And so Amy, thank you so much for the referral here. It's been a pleasure to meet Wendy. Real quick, let me give her a quick bio and we'll turn it over to Wendy. Wendy is the head of clinical operations at Brave Health Incorporated, a telehealth provider for mental health and substance abuse services. She has been working in the social service field for more than 30 years and spent 3 decades in various areas of all levels of care, all ages, substance abuse, mental health, and dual diagnosis. Wendy has trained thousands of clinicians, assisted hundreds of clinics and programs to implement evidence-based best practices into their services. Just honored to have her.
It was awesome. This was, I mean, for somebody who's been in the field as long as she hasn't done the things she does, just everybody just pay attention because Wendy was great and I enjoyed interviewing her. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Curran and I'm here with Wendy. Wendy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Matt. Thanks.
Awesome. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk a little bit about you and your experience because we've been talking and it's really impressive, all the things that you've been doing for some time. And then we'll talk about Brave, the organization that you're part of. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and all your experience that you have in this field.
Well, I'll cut it down short because it's a long list. I've been working in the mental health substance abuse field for over 30 years now. I've been very fortunate to work with some cutting edge and leaders in both fields. So I've been able to provide services in mental health from acute care to outpatient to prevention, as well as with substance abuse, working with children, long-term residential, women who have children suffering from addictions, medication-assisted treatment program, interventions, so pretty much everything. I've touched upon. I've not administered any medications since I'm not a nurse or doctor, and that's fine on that piece. So I've been very fortunate working with cutting edge, trying new things, see what works better, and see how we can reach more people, and they feel more comfortable coming into services to get the help to have a healthy life.
Wow, that's really impressive. So 30 years in the field, and so you've probably seen a lot, right? Seen a whole lot. And
I have seen a lot.
Talk about the difference, if you don't mind, real quick, the difference that you've seen in the growth, both in the good and the bad over the 30 years, because I know there's been good and bad, and just the difference in addiction and drugs over that period of time.
Yeah, just the type of addictions we've seen has grown from when I first started. It was primarily alcohol, some marijuana, some cocaine, some heroin. And then we, as a society, we took a turn and crack cocaine came about. I worked at a national hospital when crack cocaine was the biggest boom, and I was in Atlanta, Georgia when that was happening.
Wow.
So we saw that, and then saw the rise in heroin and opiate addiction, and then the change in the marijuana abuse and how marijuana has just drastically changed in the 30 years of, what it's made of, how it impacts the body and who's using it, how they're using it. And so the treatment world, we've been on our toes trying to be there for the person where they're at, but trying to get ahead of it to find the most effective way to provide services so that people can be healthy, whether they're, to do prevention services of not even starting substances and dealing with the things that are going on that might lead to substance use, like feelings and communication issues, to long-term residential programs that are specific. So 30 years ago, it was just starting the idea that women in residential being separated from their kids was very hard. So they were not thriving. They would drop out of services. So, the leaders said, hey, let's do residential where they can have their kids live with them. So that was a phenomenal process that went through, looking at what modalities, how long people need to be in services. It's not a cookie cutter. We're human beings, so we all are a little bit different. So how can we treat many effectively, but still get that individual care? And then I would say within the past 10 years or so, the look at medication, what role that can play.
Yeah.
Because medication played a role in the addiction from opiates. So, how do you balance that you're taking another medication to help fight that addiction and get the people on the road of recovery?
Yeah, and get them past that. Yeah. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about, we're sitting here talking on a Zoom meeting, and I think about half the world is talking on a Zoom meeting probably at the same time. But you are really on the cutting edge of that, of changing how we could do mental health counseling and how we could do addiction counseling. So talk a little bit about that and how that all started for you.
Sure. So back in the mid 2000s, 2005 to about 2008, we were looking and seeing technology was growing around us. Smartphones were starting to become a thing, or Blackberries back in the day, and wanted to look and see how we can harness that. And so we looked at other fields, what was going on in other countries also, and people were starting to use this video platform. And they had each place had their own special platform because it needed to be secure. And we were like, so why can't we do this with our clients? So if somebody, our office was 100 miles from somebody that needed to see the specialist counselor for trauma or the substance abuse specific, why not use this video to connect them versus driving that long or trying to get to an office, even on public transportation. So we, a couple of organizations in Florida and across the state put in for some grants through the federal government, SAMHSA, and Florida got awarded a grant. We got the first wave and second wave. And by the second wave, Zoom had started. Mm-hmm. And we were like, yes, let's try this. And it made it just even easier. Yeah. They still needed like laptops, or at that point, we actually created little remote offices that might be in like the primary care's office or the probation office, child welfare's office. And then, computers got smaller, phones got bigger and smarter. Yeah. And then it got onto the smartphone, and it was like, this is really connecting us. Yeah. So we in our research, we looked at what was working, what didn't work, what modalities we needed to do. And from that, we were able to develop standards in the state of Florida and got Medicaid to change their rules because they were like, you can't do this. We won't pay you for it. But it works. We show it was actually more effective, and it's just grown from there. With Brave Health started in 2017, and in 2019, we became 100% virtual. Wow. That we provide all the services virtually, and the engagement rate is very high. The no-show rate was so low that we had to take a look and make sure our numbers were right. Yeah. It was like, is that true? Because the nice thing too is if we have cancellations, we can call somebody else that was waiting for an appointment and within minutes get them into the session. Yeah. Or call somebody and go, hey, did you forget? And they're like, oh, I did forget. They just hit a link on their phone and there it is.
Wow.
Versus driving, 20 minutes, an hour each way.
Yeah. So fast forward to 2020, and y'all have been on the leading edge of what the whole country is going through right now. I mean, y'all leading from the front.
Leading from the front, and still while we're leading, we're exploring ways to make it even more efficient and just reach more people.
Yeah.
Also. So we've been fortunate. I feel this in this part we have exceeded some of the medical world on their services through telehealth and telemedicine, where counseling used to be kind of in the back and trying to catch up because we're so new in the substance abuse counseling field.
Yeah.
But we are leading edge and trying new things and getting great results.
Yeah. And that's amazing. So you've worked with everything, we talked about this a little before, but everything from addiction to veterans to just all of it. And it's so important right now in this time that we're living in that we're able to reach out and connect with these people, because this is not an easy time for a lot of people, right?
Right. This time is especially hard, especially for those who are struggling with any type of addiction or mental health.
Yeah.
You are isolating. And one of the first things we tell people that are coming in, don't isolate.
Yeah, that's right.
What do you do when the government's telling you can't leave? So how else can you get those connections? But on the same that it's a challenge that they can't isolate, we find different ways to now communicate. And so exploring new options like the Zoom, doing Zoom meetings. I watched a movie with my friends via Zoom.
Yeah.
We had dinner and a movie. We were all in our own house. So that was fun. And the art of actual conversation and just hanging out. I mean, I've had people call and they're just like, yeah, I just need to chat with somebody just for a few minutes and, things like that. And it just opens it up.
It does. It really does.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was going to say the nice thing about telehealth is, especially during this time, is we can also just address what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Right. And you connect really close with individuals quickly.
Yes.
And get that rapport building. So it's not days or weeks or sessions before you get that click. It's like almost instantaneous.
Thanks. That's really cool. So let's talk a little bit about the growth of Brave and how y'all are expanding and where you're going and how just the landscape is still changing because it's such a successful program that you're involved in.
So right now, Brave is covering 100% of Florida. Anyone who's a resident in Florida can be a patient or a client of ours for services. And we are expanding to North Carolina.
There we go.
There you go. New York, Georgia, Mississippi, Texas, and Illinois.
Wow.
We've been asked to come to some of those states by various people. We had identified North Carolina as a place we wanted to go even before COVID-19 that's happening now. But since that's happened, it's been more of, can you come? How quickly can you come? And getting those things in place. So that's exciting. And we're setting things up great so that even after this state of emergencies that we're in, we can continue those services in the state. So we won't have to interrupt any counseling sessions with the clients and their families. So it'll be consistent growth and wellness for them.
Yeah. So on behalf of the 108 Challenge and Convene, that's wonderful because we're both located out of North Carolina. Eric Burgiss will talk about, Thomasville, North Carolina, where he lives and just the issue. And it's not just Thomasville, but it's a lot of places in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
We have a lot of the main highways that in the country that run through here. And so you do see a lot of drugs in and out of North Carolina, just as in any state.
Yeah.
And so it's important that we're here to support. You also, which is near and dear to my heart, you have a lot of military bases and you have a lot of retired military men and women. And those military men and women, if they ended up getting out on medical discharge or however they got out, that, suffering from PTSD or different things, they fall sometimes into that alcoholism or that drug addiction, And so I think it's just going to be great to have you guys in the state of North Carolina.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I really want to ask you just this question. What type of things do you guys do, like, or offer your clients in the part of education? Because we talked a little bit about that is, it's not just treating the person when they're in it, but it's also educating and all that. And one of the things we've talked about during the summit is really kind of educating. How can we educate youth? How can we educate parents? How can we, just help people who are already in that addiction process get out of the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So education is a huge piece for success, right? Long-term success. And so with Brave Health, we're looking at it as a full approach. We provide the education in the sessions. And if it's an adolescent, we do engage the parents or their support person in there as well to provide education so that they can be supportive and not hinder any type of steps that the individual may be taking. We have group sessions that provide the education. We're looking at setting up almost like a webinar education that would just truly be education, and that'll be available to individuals in the states that we're in. And it'll cover various topics. It'll be how to handle the stress of social isolation, how to handle anger management, because we're going to start hitting that peak.
Yeah, that's right.
Other things that you can do to, then go to substances or other behavioral things that you used to do, harming self or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then also providing education on what's out there for people who are in recovery.
Yeah.
There were recovery groups online before, and it's just expanded even more so. And it can be anything from texting recovery groups to Zoom we have a few that are on Zoom type of platforms, and then using apps as well. There's some applications out there to help people stay on track and focus on what do they want to do, and kind of doing self-checks with that. So we almost every day we add to the list of, hey, this would be a great topic. Who else can we reach out to help get the word out? Yeah.
And obviously, again, we appreciate you being a part of this, because we're trying to bring a network of resources together. And by bringing that network of resources together, it's going to help people, just know what's available and out there. And, hopefully in the long run, we can bring Brave Health into Convene, and that can be a platform and a resource that people can come into and just, learn and get educated. And then if they do need to tap into your services, the telehealth services, it's right there, and people can do that. And that's really the whole goal of what we're trying to get across with this afternoon session. So listen, I can't thank you enough for being a part of this. And really, again, I'll say on behalf of me and Eric Burgiss, thank you so much. Your best friend down there is a part of it with Drug Free America. And then we got Drug Free World, Brave Health. We got steeredstraight.org, and obviously the 108 Challenge. These are great organizations who are out there making a huge difference. And for somebody like yourself who's been doing this for 30 years, that's so impressive. And I just want to thank you personally for everything that you've done.
Well, thank you. And thank you for putting this all together, because we need it even more now, of bringing all the resources together, because the resources things are going to get worse as this COVID-19 continues. We're going to feel the effects, and Brave Health is dedicated to be there for people now, afterwards, and for the long term, which I think is what you're doing as well. And that's awesome. Thank you so much.
So real quick, just tell people how they can learn more about Brave Health.
Yep. So you can learn more about Brave Health by giving us a call at 305-902-6347, or visit our website at bebravehealth.com.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And this is going to be a great event. And thanks for help making it possible.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I think Wendy hit it spot on right there at the end. Is during this time where we're all feeling isolated, we're all feeling closed in. Schools are out, some businesses are closed. We really don't know what's going on. Being able to reach out to somebody is so important.
Well, she hit something very dear and right to home to me, and that's the self-isolation. One of the things is you never ask people to tiptoe around your triggers. For me, I always thought that I need to be responsible for my own triggers, and one of those things is being isolated and getting bored and letting those things creep back in. And the best way that we deal with those things for people with long-term substance abuse, and whether you're in short-term or long-term recovery, the best way to deal with that is go back to active use. Again, if you are a nonprofit or agency health provider, MAT, medical assisted treatment, whether you're any type of facility out there, these ladies, Amy and Wendy, what they provide and what they do, you heard Amy say it, people are not about reinventing the wheel or things like that. If other people are doing things that are having success with it, hey, listen, reach out to these ladies, reach out to them, click on, find out about them, go to them. They are more than willing to be open to talk to you about the things that they're doing and having success, or what does and what doesn't work. And
Yeah,
obviously they
absolutely.
are doing phenomenal down there in the state of Florida.
Yeah, they're doing great. Great. So Wendy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. That was awesome.
Not just for your, your 30 years of service in this area is just wonderful. And, but what you're doing is just incredible. And I really enjoyed that. So, all right. It doesn't stop now. We're going to just keep on going big and, keep working. So, this next interview I really enjoyed. So go ahead and introduce our next speaker.
Absolutely. So you heard myself, you heard Michael DeLeon. We talk about drugfreeworld.org. At that prevention summit, I had the privilege of meeting the Florida chapter of Drug Free World, The Truth About Drugs. We are honored and privileged to have JULIETA with us on today. She was raised in born of the border there in Mexico. From a very early age, she saw firsthand how much of a problem drugs were in the community, and not just those that consume it, but also the effect that it has on the whole community. She saw that there was a big problem and not enough education on the reality of what drugs do, not just to the individual, but also the whole community. She became very passionate and driven on the subject, especially on educating children. Her heart and her passion and her dedication to impact our youth and teens is phenomenal, and we are so excited to have her.
Yeah, this was a great interview. So everybody, let's get ready.
I'm ready.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Curran. I'm here with JULIETA. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, I am so excited that you're here, and I'm so excited that you're going to be part of the 108 Challenge Live event. So this, I know, on behalf of me and behalf of Eric Burgiss and the 108 Challenge, we just want to thank you guys for being a part of this summit that we're having.
It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here and be part of this.
Yeah, so let's talk about you a little bit. Let everybody know a little bit about you, because you have we've already talked about it a little bit, but you have an interesting upbringing, an interesting background that most people don't have, that has helped you form like who you are.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from Mexico. I grew up in the border of the Mexican side of the border of El Paso, Texas. Yeah. And I grew up with what was very common. It was just part of life, knowing where the drug lords lived and having like a high traffic day when you try to cross the border to just go to the other side, maybe go shopping or whatever, just because it was like a routine traffic. Somebody got caught with drugs or they're checking for drugs. So it was something that was very much part of the culture, and it was thought very normal until one time, like at one point in my youth, I was like, I don't think other kids think this is normal. I don't think other kids know where the drug lords live. Yeah. And I don't think this is a normal thing. But when I realized that, I didn't know how to communicate that to others. I didn't know how to get that information, because I realized this is not normal, and I know what effect it has, because that town became one of the most dangerous towns, and is known very much just for drug trafficking and the crime. So when I was able to find something that I could do something about, when I could inform others and help others, that's when I got into drug prevention.
So you told me that was the murder capital of the world.
It was the murder. It became the murder capital of the world. Thankfully, it's not anymore. Yeah. And funny enough, I did get to go to another one doing drug prevention and doing some. So it's kind of funny, kind of scary, kind of funny, but it became the number one murder capital of the world. It's not anymore. Thank goodness for that. But it's but that did give me the push to, and then not just the push, but it really gave me the passion to share with others what is important about drug education, important about knowing true facts, real facts, so you can make an educated decision. Yeah, really.
And that's perfect, because that's what this whole day has been about. That will, when people are watching this video, the whole day has been about education and prevention, and that's really what we're talking about. And Drug Free World leads the way in that. And so let's kind of talk a little bit before we get into some of the things that y'all have. Let's talk about Drug Free World and the mission of Drug Free World. How about that?
Sure. Well, Drug Free World, Foundation for Drug Free World, is an international organization. We're a nonprofit public benefit organization, and the purpose is to educate with facts, because nobody wants to be told what to do or not to do. But how can you really give somebody how can you make somebody really be empowered? To me, it's always like knowledge is power. That's how I work personally.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about the foundation, because it gives you facts, it gives you truth, it gives you the tools so that you can make that educated decision. And then with that, hopefully, of course, be drug free.
Absolutely. So what I believe in life is that we learn through our experiences, we learn through our knowledge. We have to be exposed to learn. And so I think that's a lot of what you guys do as Drug Free World is you give people that knowledge, that information that they need. And like you said, that you give the people what they need to make those informed decisions, right? And that's part of the problem is if you don't know, the whole day, on this event, we're talking about exposure. I have young kids. I have a 23-year-old, I have a 20-year-old, and I have a 16-year-old. And unfortunately, guess what? Drugs are everywhere, and alcohol is everywhere, and people have access to it. And, but how can we educate them on, the facts on what drugs and alcohol can do, and vaping and the different types of vaping and all that. So how do you guys do that? How do you, what are some of the things that you guys have that you're able to educate people with?
Well, one of the great things is that really anybody can do. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do drug education. Anybody can because we give you the tools. We have, for example, this is the booklet series of the most commonly abused drugs. And there's 14 different booklets on the most commonly abused drug. This is a general one. This one I love because I found that not a lot of people will tell you what a drug is. Yeah. And a drug is basically a poison. That's what it is. It's very simple. A lot of people will go very much like, well, a drug is cocaine or a drug is heroin. But now what is a drug? How does it work? How does it affect the mind? And that's what's great about this. It's in here. And then it also takes an in-depth look on the different other types of drugs. Here's marijuana, alcohol, prescription drugs, and so forth. There's 14 different kinds of the most commonly abused drugs, which I love because you can just pick it up. And sometimes, if you work with students, with your children or youth, they don't always if you give it to them, they're like, oh no, I don't need it, or something like that. We know how some of them are, but if you have them there, you can always leave them for them and they pick it up and they get it for themselves, so it's not somebody just telling you what to do, but it's called the truth about drugs. So it's not telling you, don't do it, you're bad, because it's not about being bad or good, because we know that drugs affect everybody. They don't discriminate.
Good and bad people. It does not matter.
Exactly. So with that, it actually gives you the facts, and it's just facts. That's what it is. It's not sugar-coated, and it is also not like scare tactics. It just is what it is. And what it is actually kind of scary. So you really don't need scare tactics.
Yeah, that's right.
There's also the documentary and PSA. So the documentary is real people, real stories. So they're sharing their stories, telling you what a drug is, telling you the effects, telling them how they affect their life. And along with it, so there's a booklet, documentary, and public service announcement that go along with each one of the booklets. Okay. Yeah. And the best thing, which I thought, because this is the thing, only a certain amount of people can feel like they can really talk about drugs because they might not have all the knowledge. But with the Truth About Drugs curriculum, anybody can pick it up and it tells you exactly what to do. And it directs you to, public service announcements, the booklets, and it tells you exactly what to say, what to do. You don't have to go and look everywhere for it. It's all laid out, easy, simple. Just add water, basically. Just add the students.
That's right. Just add water. I just did.
Exactly. Just add. Exactly.
That's right.
But there's also another thing. On our website, you can now do online courses for free.
Yeah.
So you can do those courses. So you can actually, yourself or your students or parents that want to talk to their kids about it can go online. And they can do the courses online. So what you see here, you can actually download the booklets. You can download all the materials that I just showed you on your computer. Wow. So you have access to everything. So you can be anywhere. You can download it on your phone. You want to share something with somebody, you can do that. You can send it to people. You can share it on your social media and so forth. Yeah. So that's
awesome. And when we're talking about this, it's funny that you say that because the tagline of Convene is real life, real people, real experiences, right? So I love that y'all have that video of that. And, in the first part of the day, you got Michael De Leon and Eric Burgiss, and you got two other stories, recovery stories. And those are so powerful, when you can hear people's stories. And that's important because one of the things that people don't want to do, and one of the things that's great that when people do it, when they're in that recovery and they're able to come out and they're able to share their knowledge and share their stories and share, I was in this place and now I'm here and you can be here too,
Right.
So I love that. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think it's great that the people that share their stories, I know Michael and Eric, they have great stories, that to be able to hear from them. One of the things is that you don't have to experience things yourself to know something is bad. Like when you have somebody that has already experienced it, you can observe it for yourself, or you can learn for yourself. You don't have to go crash into a tree to know that that's not what, that's going to hurt. You can just observe it and be like, maybe I'm not going to go, 60 miles an hour towards the tree and hit it. But if I know, that's what's going to happen. So it's all about that. And I love being part of this. And I love that we're all in this together, and we're all working towards that goal, which is education and really empowering people and giving real facts, because that's so important.
Yeah, the real facts is so important, letting the kids know. And it's not just the kids. It's I find it very important that we educate parents, right? Because again, I have 3 kids. And like we've talked about, it's so important that I'm able to talk with facts to my kids, to give them the real information that they need. Because here's the thing, I can't put my kids in a bubble as much as I want to. And if you're a parent and you're listening to this out there, you can't put your kids in a bubble. You may want to, but they're going to get exposed. But what you can do is you can arm them with the facts that they need. You can arm them with the real life, material, ideas, the recovery story. So when they are, and I say when they are put in those decision-making points, they're able to make their decisions.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. It's unfortunately, we live in a drug culture, and everywhere you look, there's drugs. And a lot of the time the information is not always true. It's usually, and where you get the information is usually people that are pushing towards, using the drugs. And one of the things that is important to understand is also to observe, who is saying that information? Where does it come from? Do they even have the authority to say it? Because anybody can go and at any time and say anything and be, well, I heard that online or whatever. But it's really to know the sources and know who is, the real
Well,
source.
and that's the key. That's what Drug-Free World is Drug-Free World is an authority that's going to give you the real facts, right? You're not putting out facts just to put out stuff that's not real. This is data. This is real facts. And this is, this is why, when I talk to Eric about it and he talks about you guys' curriculum, he's like, this is it. This is the real facts. And this is important that parents know and youth know, and, that we're getting into the schools and we're educating and we're talking to these people. And for Eric and Michael, both of those guys, they back it up with, hey, guys, here's my real world story. This is how I went down the wrong path, but here's how you don't have to go down the right path. And here's the facts that back it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is wonderful. So, I mean, listen, we are extremely excited. And hopefully, working with you guys, we'll be able to bring some of that education into Convene. We've been talking about that because one of the things that Convene does is it has an anonymity piece, and people have probably already heard this day, but that anonymity piece is important because, a lot of times what you said earlier, you said people, the kid might not pick up the book when the parent's standing there. They might want the facts, right? They might want it, or I might be going down the wrong path and I might want to talk to somebody. Well, inside of Convene, you can do that anonymously, right? You can put yourself out there. That's one of the coolest things about it is that there's people that come in and write about, they can write the experiences about their drug use anonymously. There's people that write experiences about depression. There's all those things. They do it anonymously and people can answer their questions anonymously, right? And if we have the right facts and the right people in there guiding them, like Drug-Free World, then that's just beautiful. That's what we're shooting for.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, I truly appreciate you being a part of this. I think, Eric, again, I'm speaking on behalf of 108 Challenge and Convene. Eric was so excited when you guys came on. I mean, we have you guys, and it's like we talked about Drug-Free America and SteeredStraight.org. You guys are 3 of the powerhouses in the country when it comes to nonprofit out there making a difference, right? And so I just want to commend you for what you do and the difference that you're making.
Thank you. It
and
goes
so-
back to you guys as well, by the way.
Well, let me just let you have the parting words. If you were to give a last parting shot from Drug Free World, what would your message be? What would you want people to know? And tell people again where they can go find you.
Well, get the facts. You can go to drugfreeworld.org. You can download all the materials. You can do the courses online. You can find us on social media. And really, you know, it takes all of us. We're working together. We're doing something about it, and let's just keep doing it.
Yeah. So Julieta, thank you so much for being on a part of this summit. And I look forward to, you know, just building that relationship with Drug Free World and just making a difference in people's lives. And, you know, if we can save one person, we're doing a great thing. And that's what we're doing each and every day. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Just another powerful message and another powerful, you know, nonprofit that's doing great things.
Absolutely. We had the honor to meet the Florida chapter down there at the Drug Prevention Summit. And Julieta, I hope you don't mind, because on behalf of the 108 Challenge and Drug Free World, these pamphlets right here, you know, every time I open up this packet, you know, there's something new I learn. And so, Matt, I want to pass this on to you as well. I know you've got young kids. I want you to have that. If you book Michael DeLeon or with steeredstraight.org, or if you book Eric Burgiss with the 108 Challenge, you are going to not only get our PowerPoint presentation, but you're going to get the truth about drugs, drugfreeworld.org, not only the public announcements, but the 14 different pamphlets that go in the packet. And you're going to get the educator's guide that you can, you know, teach and educate your students long after we are there. And that is a phenomenal thing. Again, click on their link inside there on our sponsorship page and learn more about Julieta and the Drug Free World, what they're doing.
And I just want to say, you know, there's two things we're doing today. We're tying real life stories and tying it to the facts. And when you take the real life stories and you tie into those facts, then it's believable. Sometimes you have to have both. And one of the things that she said that was so impressive to me is when she talked about, you know, the video of all the real stories, and that's what Convene's about: real life, real people, real experience. And so tying it and then going over these, you know, parents and students, educate yourself to what it's really like out there.
I love what absolutely. I love what she said. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
You know, right. And so not only you get the real life stories, Matt, but then you get the education to back them up.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, she's great. She's awesome.
So thank you so much. Well, who's next?
Well, I think this is a part of the session where we have done a little, we call it an audible, I guess you can call that. And I wanted to take the time out real quick with Matt. You know, we're talking about Convene. You're hearing that a lot. You're probably going in. It's probably new to you and how to work things in and navigate through Convene and what have you. And this is the founder of Convene. He has got a phenomenal team that works with him. And I just wanted to take time out to have Matt. I want to ask him a couple questions about Convene, and I'm going to go right into it. So not only your friendship and allowing me to be a part of your studio here, but tell everybody who's watching real quick, you know, what is Convene?
Yeah, so I'll go back, and I'm not going to go long into the story, but, you know, it really came from a mishap that happened a long time ago when I was a Marine Corps pilot. And that's a story for another time. But the point of that is that it was, a mishap happened and some Marines lost their lives, and it did not need to happen, but people didn't share the story. Right. And so that information from a mishap that had happened prior did not make it to our squadron. And therefore we lost some Marines. But let me tie it to this. So I've always believed that we learn through our experiences, and we learn through the experiences and stories of others. So if I'm tying it to this event, and I said this when we did our call a couple of weeks ago on our Thursday night Convene Connections, is that when I was a sophomore in high school, you know, I was a pretty innocent guy, and I played baseball. You know, if we want to go back to the 108 Challenge and baseball, I played high school baseball as a sophomore, and I played varsity baseball, and all my friends were older. And so we had played a game at Lee County. We had won. I'd had a great day. I remember like it was the back of my hand. I had gone 3 for 4. We ended up beating this team. It was a great day. So that night I ended up going out with some friends, Eric, and, got some alcohol from my older brother, and he met us, he gave it to us. And then we went to this party that was out in the woods. And when we got out in the woods, I took my first drinks that I had ever drank in my life. Well, you know how you talked about in your story, how you woke up in the hospital and you wake up, you have heart monitor on, you have tubes hanging out of you, I had tubes coming out of my nose, because what I had tried to do is drink almost a whole half gallon of alcohol. And I ended up with a 0.39 alcohol level, 0.39 alcohol level. And that was the first time that I ever drank. And I tried to, really put myself into a grave. And so the great thing that came from that is one of the things that my father did to me is he talked to me and he said, hey, if you didn't learn from that experience, you're never going to learn. And it's kind of like you waking up and saying, I wouldn't wish that on anybody,
Absolutely.
To wake up and be in a hospital bed in an emergency department and not know where you are, how you got there. And how I got there was somebody took me there that did not even know who I was. Right. Because, the people that I was with that night all went home and left me.
Beelined it.
Yeah, they beeline and they left me. And so, if you look at life experiences, I was lucky. I mean, I was going into a coma. They were able to reverse it, and I was slipping away. And I'm here today. So we're able to make this, difference. It's been really interesting because since we did that Thursday night interview, a lot of people from my high school and earlier have connected, and they use that story. They tell me that they use that story to talk to their kids. And that's that's not what you want to be. You don't want to be a story, but it's great, because it allows us to make a difference.
Absolutely. And that probably is, and as you just went into your story, Matt, and thank you for sharing, is why the Convene Hope and Support Group means so much to Matt and I. He has put me the facilitator over that as we are starting to grow that. And if you are wanting any information about Convene Communities, go to convenecommunities.com. You can reach out to Matt. He's on Facebook. You can directly contact him. He will answer any question and navigate you through that. Come and learn more about what they're doing here in the North Carolina area and across the country. He has connected so many different individuals. His friendship is just, a class act, and just want to thank you for that. So please go in and visit convenecommunities.com. Matt, anything else?
Yeah, the last thing I'll say, and we'll move on to the next speaker, is, it's free. It's free for any nonprofit, any organization, any school. You want to come in and use Convene, you get in touch with me. I'll be happy to walk you through it, or one of my team. I have a great team. We will teach you how to use it, teach you how to navigate through it, allow you to have a group. And this guy's going to do an incredible job with the Convene Hope and Support community. And that's what it's all about. It's about supporting each other and building that village and building that community, as our speakers have been talking to.
I'm honored to be a part of Convene.
Yeah. So let's move on.
Awesome. So wow. Thank you guys again for staying with us. We have a couple more to go here. And this is on a local level. When I started going down, and you heard Amy earlier talking about the importance of coalitions and things like that. I had a few mentors when I started this thing called recovery and starting networking and connecting with people. You can't come into Thomasville, North Carolina, Davidson County, and not hearing the name Sandy Motley. It's somebody not saying that they don't know who she is. So I am honored to have her come. She's executive director of the Davidson County Medical Ministries. She's got 30 years in the field. She is all about impacting lives, connecting with people, navigating people to treatment and resources, what she's done over there to help that grow. She is the visionary behind the new DC Connect. And as I'm not going to spoil it for you, she will obviously share her vision and how our community is starting to do in new innovative ways to impact those out there struggling with different areas of their lives. So with no further ado, Mrs. Sandy Motley.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, let me say one thing. I thoroughly enjoyed this interview. And as somebody who is married to a wife, I have a sister-in-law who's married to, of course I'm married to my wife, married to a nurse, my sister-in-law is a nurse. My mother-in-law is a nurse, and Sandy Motley is a nurse who's been a nurse for a long time. So for all those frontline workers, paramedics, first responders, anybody who's out there doing great things right now, just thank you for what you're doing. And you're getting ready to meet a great, great, inspiring lady.
We love Sandy.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Matt Curran. I'm with Sandy Motley. How are you doing today, Sandy?
I'm great. Good to hear from you.
Good. So they're going to hear two Southerners on this call. So me and you. So this is great. People from all over the country are watching. And we're going to talk about first, what you do, how long you've been doing what you do. And then we'll talk about DC Connect and some of the initiatives that you guys are doing down there in Davidson County in North Carolina.
Okay.
It's a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am, first of all, I'm a nurse. I am been an RN since 1978, so longer than you've been around. But my current job, I'm the executive director of Davidson Medical Ministries Clinic, which is a free and charitable clinic for the uninsured, and the site administrator for a federally qualified health center that operates at the same time at the same place. And we serve both the uninsured and the underinsured with primary health care. We do medical, dental, pharmacy, and behavioral health. And I have been there since the inception. It was just an idea when it got started in 1991, and we opened our doors in 1992. So I have been there I'm in my 29th year of being there.
Congrats on that. That's awesome. So you're an innovator, making things happen.
I like to think I'm a visionary.
Yeah.
We started out in a little block building I was the only staff member, and now there's 3 full-time sites with 40-some staff members. So little growth over the years.
Really awesome. So talk a little bit about Davidson County before we,
okay.
DC Connect.
Well, Davidson County is in the end of what's called the Piedmont region of North Carolina. And it is a large county landmass wise, but population wise, there's only like 166,000 people in the whole county. So it's smaller than the city of Winston-Salem. Mm-hmm. But landmass wise, it's 553 square miles.
Yeah.
So, but 166,000 people are spread out pretty widespread across the county. And so one of the problems that we have in Davidson County is transportation from people in the outlying parts of the county being able to get into the towns, the cities of Lexington and Thomasville to be able to access the resources. Mm-hmm. So it's like you have to go to 15 different places to try to get the help that you need. And that's unrealistic for a lot of people that are coming out of crisis, whether it's homelessness or substance abuse or misuse or post-incarceration, which is kind of where we started with the concept of DC Connect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So just talk a little bit about what the plans are moving forward. How do you plan to bring this together? Because this is just a great thing that y'all are doing.
Well, thank you. We did a year-long strategic plan. Davidson Medical Ministries got a grant to do the strategic plan, and then we've moved now from the writing of the plan to the implementation. So we have elected our first board of directors and filed for our articles of incorporation. I'm in the process of doing the paperwork for our 501c3. So it's still in the implementation phases, but there's really a multi-level concept. The first is to develop that recovery-oriented system of care where someone who is experiencing a crisis can contact one place, one number, and be able to get the assessments done as to what they're going to need for crisis intervention, for transitional support, whatever their current situation is, and then help them connect to those different agencies instead of them feeling like they have to run around all over town to try to get help. We're going to try to bring as much of the help to that centralized location as much as possible.
Yeah, and so how many organizations do y'all have that you're going to be able to connect into?
Well, right now we have a little over 30 different partner agencies that have said we want to be a part of this. And that's everything from Department of Social Services and Health Department to the local hospitals, and then the nonprofit agencies that are out there. So in writing the strategic plan, we had over 30 agencies and over 100 people working on the different aspects of that plan.
Wow. So it really is a true model plan for, a county, that anybody can really think of this. And
that's really part of what we wanted to do, was create a model that could be replicated in other small county or rural counties. Everything doesn't always have to depend on being close to a big city.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and especially, you look at some of the states, and there's people actually on the 108 Challenge Live watching it that are from some states that are very rural, that are very spread out, that, they're not in the big cities, like you said. And so you have to be able to connect people to the resources that they need. And so a thing like DC Connect is, and even in the big cities, sometimes it's overwhelming,
exactly.
Right? People to look into those counties, even in the big cities, going, okay, well, I'm in the city, but where do I go? But for the rural counties, and there's a lot of rural counties in the state of North Carolina for sure, that you are creating a model, and that's awesome. That's really.
Thank you. We're trying.
Yeah, you're doing well. So if people want to know more, because people, like I said, people are watching this, can you tell them how they might be able to get in touch with you or be able to talk to you guys about DC Connect and the model that you guys are making?
Sure. They can always contact me by email. My email is Sandy M, SANDYM @medicalministries.org. And then I can put them in contact with anybody else that they need to talk to from within the structure.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is really awesome. And I really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward. We've talked before. I'm looking forward to hopefully having Convene as a part of this, and bringing your county together and all of these resources together under a DC Connect label where, in that county, if somebody is local to your county, they can go to Convene, they can click on DC Connect, and then, all those resources are also there.
Another piece of the DC Connect model is that we're wanting to use volunteers that will be trained as peer support, not in the sense that you think about peer support in recovery, but peer support as in someone to walk along beside you and not enable you, but to help empower you and encourage you in the next steps to not give up, because it is a process.
Absolutely.
If you're looking at moving from being in a crisis situation to hopefully being stabilized and being a sustainable member of the community, that's a process. It does not happen overnight. It doesn't even happen in a couple of months. So it's easy to get discouraged and to fall back on what is natural or your old habits. So we're hoping that we can partner people with a peer support person that will literally stay with them, not only through the crisis and the transition, but will continue to be an encouragement for years to come and builds really strong relationships.
Well, that's so important. And I'll say this, that's one of the things that Eric Burgiss and I talk about all the time. He believes in peer support in his substance abuse recovery world. One of the things that we haven't brought up, but me being a fellow Marine and having my degree in counseling, is I do a lot of stuff with fellow veterans on PTSD, on some of the things that they need to do. So that's just a wonderful thing. I'd love to even be a part, even though I'm up here in Winston, but I'd love to be a part of helping you with your veteran population down in
that would be amazing.
Yeah, it is, because that is so important to me, because there's so many veterans out there that just need they just need somebody who's walked the walk and talked the talk, who's been there.
I have a son that is a Marine that had an IED experience in Iraq and has got some PTSD, so I am very familiar with that.
You connect him with me also, and I would love to talk to him, because
awesome.
I think that peer support and working back and forth with each other is it's so important. And when you've been there and you've done that and you've been in combat and you felt the stress of the combat, then that's what it's at. And I commend you. We talked about that before. So being a Marine Corps mom, Semper Fi there, and being a retired Marine, that's so important. So I think that's just a great thing. And I want to tell you also that, for training your people. I haven't really mentioned this during the whole thing, but one of our sponsors is Yoke Fellow Ministries.
Familiar with them.
Yeah, and they use the platform to train their people before they can go through. So they have to go through a syllabus, and before they can go into the prisons themselves, they have to go through the syllabus on Convene, get their completion certificate, and turn it in. So
that's awesome.
Ideas there for anybody who's listening that might want to, we are a training management, a learning management platform, an education platform, but we're also a platform that helps, communicate, collaborate, and bring people together. So a lot of good things happening. Sandy, I really
excited.
Yeah, I really appreciate you. And on behalf of myself, of Convene, and Eric Burgiss of the 108 Challenge Live, we just couldn't be, happier to be right here in North Carolina and working with you guys. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We're honored to have you. Eric has been a big supporter and lots of energy, and we're excited to be a part of that and him be a part of who we are. And I just have a real heart for people who are hurting.
Yes.
I thoroughly believe that is my ministry on earth, is to help people who are hurting and to look for ways to maybe do things differently than maybe they've been done before. Not afraid to try something new. So those are all good things, and I'm happy to be a part of this. I hope the people that are watching are getting lots of good valued information and able to move forward in their lives.
Absolutely. And that's really what the mission of Convene is, to bring people together and make a difference in people's lives for good. So we're both walking the same mission, and it's been just wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Have a great day. Rest of the day.
Have a great too also. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So I'd give her a hug if she was here. Sandy, if you were here, I'd give you a big hug, because I'm gonna tell you what. Well, two things. We're not as young as I look. That's one thing.
Yeah, she called you out.
I'm old. But listen, what they're doing down there in Davidson County, bringing this coalition, that goes back to what our earlier speakers talked about. They're doing it.
Yeah, one thing that Sandy said, and I'm going to tell you, she mentioned about the vision of DC Connect. When somebody goes down, being incarcerated, coming out of some type of domestic violence, whatever, substance abuse, coming out of a recovery program, man, there is all kinds of needs. We're talking about transportation, getting a job, staying connected with a group, clothes on your back, food at the table, roof over your head. DC Connect has got, when she talked about those 30 agencies, they're all coming together to help individuals walk through that. I love the process they're taking, put them all in a hub inside of DC Connect, let them all work together, communicate, and then walk the path and the journey of the individuals. And then not only that, through 2, 3, 4 years down the road, continue to be supportive and have that peer that she was talking about to continue to walk through their path with them and help them to come to that sustained, being able to, insert themselves back into the community.
Well, that's so important, because, you look at our 2 recovery stories that we're having in this session. I mean, you're a mentor to them. I mean, you work with people in recovery. That peer-to-peer piece is so important. Being able to look somebody in the eye, like if I were to talk with her son, I've been to combat, I've been there. You work on the front lines with recovery. It's so important to be able to share that story and to be able to share that bond and to be able to have that, accountability to each other.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I mean, the people that we've got on this thing, I'm learning from them. Amy said it earlier about us, sharing the same, careers, but my gosh, I'm learning from them. I'm still, a baby in this thing, but wow, just the networking and connecting with people, and stop working in silos, but come together, not really reinventing the wheel, but bring your resources together in your communities. We all can have an impact. We have to educate. It takes everybody from faith-based law enforcement, first responders, EMS, nonprofits. It takes it all.
It takes them all, and they're doing that down there. So let's transition into our last speaker, and then we have a recovery story, but let's transition there.
Absolutely. So again, thank you guys for sticking with us. We plan on this thing to be 90 minutes. We're going to go a little bit over, but thank you so much for staying with us. Davidson County, real quick, I have to share this, Matt, is that in 2019, our county, our EMS went out on 2 overdose calls a day, and that's just the ones that were reported. and you start doing the math on that, we saw that this was becoming, a problem, and dealing with opioids and heroin abuse. And it's not just an opioid problem anymore. It's a little bit of everything as we start seeing meth and cocaine and everything on the rise, obviously teen vaping and the marijuana movement. But our county thought it was very important to hire a Davidson County substance abuse coordinator. Jonathan TYSINGER and I have started to, it's not easy becoming and building relationships with ex-police officers, but he has a passion and a heart to impact our community. And our health department thought it was serious enough for them to hire a Davidson County substance abuse coordinator, and he filled that position. And so as a Davidson County substance abuse coordinator, Jonathan works with issues related to substance abuse disorder in Davidson County, North Carolina. He develops and implements programming, coordinates and unifies existing efforts, and acts as a liaison between residents, government, and resources. I'm honored to have him on the 108 Challenge Live today, as he will be dismantling stigma and has a few words and a positive, encouraging message on how we can kind of just dismantle the stigma, stop labeling people, and see people for who they are.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I really do appreciate the time and the opportunity that Eric has afforded me here, and I think it's just it's a great program that he's got together, and I'm really excited about things to come in the future. So let me get started. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Jonathan TYSINGER. I work out of the health department here in Davidson County as the substance abuse coordinator. It's a great opportunity that I've been afforded, and really appreciative of the work that I've been offered to do, and I've got a great support team that work around me. Before I get started, though, I do want to give a big shout out and a thank you to the people who are out there working in the stores every day and just simply going to work. And I know that's a big risk, but there's many of us that do appreciate it and count on you guys to do what you're doing. And I want to say a special thanks to our emergency services and our medical staff. You guys really are leading the way right now, and thank you so much, and we appreciate it. Everybody else, practice those safe distancing protocols, and do as your local health departments and CDC is recommending. That's the only way we're going to get past this. So thank you for that. So moving on, today I'm going to talk about dismantling stigma, and it's probably one of the largest hurdles that an individual has in getting past their substance use disorder and trying to get past their old lifestyle and overcome these things. And it's the largest thing that they'll ever have to overcome in their life, because even as they get past it and they move past it, there's still that history and that remembrance. And it's up to the rest of us who work in support services, who work as friends, who are there as family, to do everything we can to make sure that label and that stigma that's been stuck to this individual is dismantled. And it starts with conversations. So that's what I want to bring to you today. I want to bring that, but I want to bring it in a different perspective. I'm going to bring it from the perspective of where I was at. Some quick background so you'll know who I am. Before I took this position in August of last year, I was a police officer for 10 years here in Davidson County in Lexington. And like many, when I would run across an individual who was suffering from some type of substance use, and the term addiction was a common term. The common adage and approach that was taught and used, and I even grew up with in the Reagan years, was say no to drugs. It's all about decision. But over that 10-year span, working with these individuals and running into the same people over and over again, instead of just forcing my opinion of what I thought they should do, I started listening to what they were telling me every time I would run into them. And I started spending a little bit more time with individuals who were suffering from some type of drug use. And the things I began to learn was that one, it's not a simple switch. It's not like one day they woke up and said, hey, this is what I want to do, and just flip the switch, and then there it was. It's a whole lot more complicated than that. Just like everyone else's life is more complicated. I didn't end up where I'm at today because I made this conscious decision when I was 18 years old to be sitting here today talking to you about this. And it's through a series of decisions and a series of life circumstances, good, bad, all the things that make us up who we are as a person, not just one thing. However, unfortunately, in today's society, we've attached labels to everybody, and then we view them through that one label, regardless of anything else that has to do with them. So I'll give you an example. If you were to say, start talking to me about someone, and you said, so-and-so is a race car driver. Well, instantly in my mind, I had pictures of race cars, the tracks, people driving around, the winner's circle, sponsorships, and so on and so forth. But that is an example of how we stigmatize an individual, because that person, that driver, that race car driver, there's a whole lot more to him than just the fact that he drives a car. He possibly has a family, married with kids, he has brothers, sisters. Maybe he has other hobbies. Maybe he has another job. Maybe he also works Monday through Friday, and the weekends is his race time. So there's a whole lot more that makes up an individual besides one thing that they do or one decision that they made. And stigma does that. Stigma attaches that nasty connotation of an addict laying on the street corner somewhere, smelly, dirty, with ragged out clothes and no money and homeless, and that's the indoctrination that we've kind of grown to come used to here in America, and it's stuck. You see it in our movies, you see it on TV, you see it on billboards, you see it in commercials, and that's not always the case. And unfortunately, that's very little of the case. The truth of it is, America is the largest consumer of illicit drugs in the world. We consume more pills than any other country combined. You combine all the other countries in the world, and America still consumes more of them. So we are a drug-ridden society. Not all drugs are bad, but the way that we use them and abuse them is the problem that we've run into today. So moving forward a little bit, that's why Eric has asked me to talk today and about specifically, he asked me, what do you want to talk about? And stigma is the first thing that comes to my mind, because I understand that in order for any type of change to take place, we're going to have to start changing people's hearts and minds. And the only way that's going to happen is if we really sit down and take time to talk to people and to learn about them and to learn about their backgrounds and the influences in their life and the circumstances that led them to where they're at. Then maybe we can begin to develop a plan to help that individual. But it takes opening up our ears and closing our mouths and stop forcing down their throats what we think they need. And what they need is support, and they need for people like you and I to begin to break down these labels and these stigmas so that we get them out of the box and stop judging them before we even had a chance to actually get to work with them and know who they are and help them. So that's why the stigma is so detrimental, because it's the perceptions, the social norms, and it closes minds. Now, these are things that's been taught here in America for years. Historically, if you go back and look at the timeline of drug use here in America, it goes back to when our forefathers were settling the country. I mean, it starts out with simple things. Tobacco, I mean, it is a substance and people do use it. Not going to debate whether it's morally right or wrong, but it is a substance and people do use it, and sometimes people do abuse it. But that is a substance that people use. It is a drug. Moving on to alcohol, and then, of course, opium and heroin has got a long-term history here in America. Cocaine obviously does. And you look at this, and these substances have been in America's history and in our lifestyles and our society for years, decades, centuries now. And because of that, it's the drug use is so indoctrinated in our society that on certain levels, it is accepted and it's considered a normal behavior. So we really start splitting hairs when we say it's okay to use this drug, but it's not okay to use that drug. And when you start talking about morality, you end up confusing the situation when you tell a person it's okay to do this, and because this is what this consists of. But this over here, even though it's essentially the same thing, it's not okay to do that. So if you do that, we're gonna label you something else, and you're not part of our normal society, and therefore you're not going to be accepted the way the rest of us have been, and the privileges are not going to be extended to you like the rest of us have been. And so that's how detrimental stigma can be, because it can place a person in a particular role in life, and then no one will actually give them a chance. And we need to start working toward breaking that down. Look at my notes here. I'm not that smart. I actually have to write notes down. Let me give you an example of why we need to break down the idea of stigma and terminology. We treat diseases like that's a person's, they're not their choice. Let me use diabetes, for example. If a person has diabetes, we will, sympathize or empathize with them. We might have pity. We might say, poor you, what can we do to help you? And it's a disease. It's been diagnosed as a disease. It's classified as a disease. It's treatable. It's reoccurring. It has, it ebbs and flows. You go through periods where you've got it under control and you don't, and you have to go back through. There's medications for it. There's treatment for it. There's therapy for it. And all of these things that I just described exactly describes a person that is also suffering from substance use disorder, but yet we somehow attach that stigma and say, oh, it's your choice. Now, I may have said earlier that to a certain degree, that person does have to take some responsibility, as does the person in some cases, depending on the type of diabetes they have. But it's not, that's not the point. The point of it is that there's enough research and enough evaluation done with people who are suffering from substance use disorder now that we know it is actually a disease. It is classified as a disease. And it is classified as a disease. It is treatable with drugs. It is treatable with therapy. And a person also goes through periods of relapse and recovery, just as a person that might be suffering from diabetes does. They have it under control and then they don't. Then they go back, they get treatment, they get under control, and they don't. And oftentimes we think that a person who's suffering from substance use disorder should be, once they get sober and it's out of their system, they should be able to move on. But just like the person who suffers from diabetes, like I just mentioned, a person suffering from substance use disorder also has tendencies to relapse and go back through recovery. And that's part of the process. But yet we somehow attach that stigma to them and say, oh, they're just a dirty drug user. They're never going to get any better. But we don't say that about a person who has diabetes. We don't say that about a person who has any other type of disease. But yet substance use is diagnosed as a disease, and it is treatable. And we need to start working toward educating the public about that and change this whole thing about it was just simply a choice. At some point, it may have been a choice, but for not everybody, it is a choice. There's thousands and thousands of instances where individuals were prescribed some type of prescription medication, typically an opiate or opioid, and they became addicted to it. That is changing. But we need to start changing. We need to start talking. And how are we going to do all this? Well, simply we need to start having conversations. That's the first thing we need to do. We need to sit down and start having conversations across the board. You and I, myself, and someone who's suffering, and we need to listen so we can start figuring things out. We need to bring social awareness to these real truths and start tearing down these ideas that somehow this person is completely their fault, 100% their fault. They didn't know anything about what they were doing. They made a bunch of bad decisions, and they had their chance. They had their options. They chose not to. And once you're suffering from some type of drug use, it's not just a matter of you decide just to stop and you're done. It takes a big support system to get past that. We need to change our terminology. Addict is something that you're going to start seeing less and less of because it connotates a label, and we view that person through addict. We don't view that person through a person suffering from substance use disorder. We say addict. We're looking at one attribute in that person's life, and yet we have labeled them and put them in a box and done away with them and say we're done. And we've got to stop doing that. We've got to change terminology to change the mindsets. We need to reach out. We need to reach out and support. We need to give time to those who are suffering with substance use disorder. And we need to continue to work on dismantling stigma. It's a heavy construct in society. It is. It took us years to get to where we're at, to why we believe what we believe, and it potentially could take us years to get out of this mindset too. We didn't just wake up in America one day and say, all people that are suffering from substance use disorder or addiction are bad. We did this over decades and decades through governmental labeling of certain types of drugs being bad. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. Drugs are bad, but we also have a social influence of people that are telling us what are good and what is bad. And through that, that's what's become the accepted norms. And we've missed the mark. We've got it wrong. And we need to start changing how people mindset and what they think about that. So we didn't get here overnight. Well, we're not going to get it fixed overnight. It's going to take a long time, and it's going to take a lot of us sitting down to talk about it and start understanding the situation. Stigma is a horrible thing. No matter what you're going through in life, no matter who you are, the chances and the opportunities that are going to be afforded to you often come down to your label that society has put upon you, or the name or the tag that they have attached to you as well. And that is unfortunate. It's the truth. But stigma is the same way. We need to change this idea in society that just because a person is suffering from drug use means that they're not worth going after, they're not worth trying to save, and that they somehow are less valuable to the rest of us. And that's not the case. We need to actually start doing more about it when it comes to having conversations, and we need to start listening. So I'm going to wrap up there. I do appreciate your time. Everybody out there, please stay safe. Continue to safe distancing protocols and do all you can to prolong this, and we'll get through it together. So stay safe, stay strong, and let's start having those conversations. Thank you.
I think Jonathan hit it spot on, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I love his story about how, he saw things one way as a Lexington police officer, as law enforcement, and then kind of coming full circle as seeing people for who they are, to understand that that's somebody's mom and dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, really uncovering who that individual is and how they got there, instead of saying, what's wrong with you? How can I help you? And Jonathan kind of really, grab that opportunity with this position that's opened up in our county. And I'm looking forward to working with him in the future and continue to connect with him. So great job on talking about that. We all need to stop labeling people with substance abuse disorder and understand that, it's just not that individual. It's hurting the entire family, and they need to be surrounded with positive influence. And that's what this has been about.
Well, it has been. And again, we've talked about educating the person who is being influenced. We've talked about educating the family. We've talked about providing resources to the family, also to the individual who needs the help. So it's there's a lot of good people that, we walk through life and we make decisions, and they aren't always great. I mean, we're, a bad person or whatever. I mean, it's just, let's get rid of it. Let's do things and let's help people out.
Let's change our mindset for sure.
That's right. So we're gonna wrap up here. We got one more story, and
we have a phenomenal recovery story. Mrs. Morgan Prince is going to share her story of recovery. She's got a great story. Thank you for bearing with us. We know we've been going a little long, but hey, this, listen, I could talk about this all day, but and hear recovery story after recovery story. That's what I'm about. I'm about that sober life, and I'm about that recovery life. So thank you for sticking with us. And we are actually going to end just the way we started.
Yep. So we're going to watch this. We're going to watch Morgan. We'll come back and do a little bit of a section. And then we'll end just the way we started with a song. So after this recovery story, don't leave. because we're going to end just how we started. And we'll wrap it up with a couple of few words. But let's watch Morgan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I get started, I wanted to introduce myself and what I do in the community. My name is Morgan Prince, and I work for Genoa Healthcare as a consumer medication coordinator, as well as a pharmacy technician out of the Winston-Salem, North Carolina location. And I've been with the company for a little over a year now. I was located inside the Monarch of Davidson County, North Carolina for the last year until they closed that location on March 31st, 2020. Genoa Healthcare is a full-service pharmacy for the insured and non-insured within the community, and we have locations nationwide. What my position entailed at Genoa Healthcare is to provide consumers with medication straight to your door and prepackaged by the day and time of day at no extra cost to the consumer. We offer hardship pricing for consumers that are uninsured at severely discounted rates from your retail pharmacies, as well as billing the consumer so that no one in mental health goes without medication because they can't afford it or they did not have the transportation to get to the pharmacy to pick their medications up. I also do refill reminder calls and work directly with doctors and nurses at the office so that takes the responsibility of remembering to refill your medications in time off of the consumers, as well as the stress of it. I once sat on the other side of my desk and I struggled financially as well as mentally. But with the right doctors and tools for recovery, I'm clean and have been for 4.5 years. 4.5 years ago, I laid in a hospital bed on a ventilator fighting for my life. I had gotten a MRSA blood infection for the third time in a year and spent a total of 6 months out of that year in the hospital, 2 months at each time. While my spouse, whom is a military veteran and also suffers from PTSD and a traumatic brain injury, was incarcerated due to a substance abuse addiction, and my mother, as well as my sister, was raising our children. Addiction is hard to beat, and it's all-consuming. My addiction started at 15 by being prescribed pain medication from a doctor for a knee injury, and it just spiraled out of control from there. Before I knew it, I was a full-blown addict, using more than I was being prescribed, and then I became an IV drug user at the age of 25. Within 6 months of using IV drugs, I was admitted into the hospital for the very first time and being transported to another hospital with a doctor asking me how I even walked into the hospital because I should have been dead. I spent 2 months in the hospital on IV antibiotics because the MRSA blood infection had spread to all of my organs. I got out of the hospital after that 2 months and stayed clean for a total of a month. Then I went right back to IV drug use. Within a month, I was right back in the hospital again for 2 months with yet another doctor in the ED asking me how on earth I had walked into the hospital yet again, because I should be dead, and that they were going to have to transport me by ambulance to another hospital for that 2-month stay of IV antibiotics. I spent my 2 months in the hospital, and then I got out. I got a part-time job to stay busy with an employer who took a chance on me and was doing well. But within 4 months time frame, I was back in the hospital with another MRSA blood infection that wasn't due to IV drug use, as I had stayed clean during that time, but it had come back and had spread through my entire body. This time I wasn't as lucky as I had been before because I ended up on a ventilator fighting for my life. I had considered relapsing so many times in that 4 months that I was out of the hospital, but what did it for me and changed my entire outlook on addiction was being on that ventilator. I could hear all the conversations around me from my family crying, sobbing for their wife, mother, daughter, granddaughter, etc., but I couldn't open my eyes or say anything. I could hear my family discussing that my husband was gone and he had stolen a vehicle from the parking lot of a hospital while he was in a PTSD episode in order to go get high because he just heard that his wife wasn't going to make it and she was going to die and he needed to tell her goodbye, but he couldn't handle it. That ventilator was a blessing and a curse. Still to this day, I have panic attacks and anxiety from it, but I haven't thought once of relapsing. It no longer became even a choice for me. As I laid there in the hospital bed that last time, and I was hopeless, I had lost my home for my family for the third time, and I had nowhere to go when I left the hospital, nor any money to do anything with. I had lost my husband to incarceration, but I had something bigger on my side, bigger than any of this, and that was sobriety with a faith that God would see me through. I got out of the hospital and met the doctor at Monarch that changed my life. I found a doctor that believed in me, and I wasn't just another number to him. He got me on medication that helped me mentally and recommended me to see a therapist to cope with everything that I had been through. My children and I lived with my family for a few months while I worked that part-time job again, and I saved money to get an apartment. Then after moving into my own apartment, because my husband was still incarcerated, I continued with my part-time job and added one more responsibility of going back to college. My husband got out of incarceration about 6 months later, but by that point, I was strong on my own, and I thank God for it. Anyone who has been in an active addiction relationship where both parties are addicts knows that it is almost impossible to beat addiction together. The separation helped us become stronger in sobriety separately before we were back together as a team. Then in January of 2019, I joined the MAP program with the same doctor I started seeing in 2016 through Monarch for substance abuse to further my recovery, because life is hard. And if you don't constantly work on your sobriety daily, sometimes hourly, or sometimes even by the minute, someone who has been in recovery for years can relapse again. You have to put your sobriety first over everything. After 2.5 years of sobriety, I moved on to the job that I have now because I was determined to share my story with anyone I felt it could change. My favorite quote that brought me through some really hard times is, "It doesn't matter who you used to be. What matters is who you decide to be today. You are not your mistakes. You're not your mishaps. You are not your past. You are not your wounds. You can decide differently today and at every moment. Remember that. You're offered a new opportunity with each breath to think, choose, decide, and act differently in a way that supports you being all that you are capable of being. You are not less than. You are enough." Author unknown. That quote got me through some of the hardest times of my life. And I want everyone that hears this message today to know that no matter what your past was, today you have a chance to wake up and change the entirety of your future. I don't care how many times you've relapsed or what you've done wrong. It doesn't matter. You can change. You can succeed. I am one of those people. There are people in this community that will help you succeed, and I will be here for you. God has each and every one of us here to serve a purpose. I was lucky enough to find my sobriety before it was too late to be able to share my story with the world. If you try a recovery program and it doesn't work for you, don't give up. Try another one. What works for someone else may not work for you, and that's completely okay. It is the exact same with mental health medication. What works for someone with exactly your same symptoms may not work for you. Don't give up. Try another one. Be honest with your healthcare providers and with your therapist and anybody that is helping you and supporting you in your sobriety, because they don't know unless you're honest with them. Continue to fight because it's worth it. Thank you.
What a powerful message.
We talk about the speakers that we have, and I'm grateful for everybody. But, when we start hearing those recovery stories from Aaron and Morgan, I am just, those I can listen to all day long.
Yeah.
And it's why all of us that have spoken and why you and I met, it's kind of why what we do. And for them to take their life stories and transcend it over and insert themselves back into the community and start doing similar things that can help impact other lives is phenomenal. Thank you for our recovery stories today, Aaron and Morgan. That's a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and it can happen to anybody. I want to point that out. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to, it happened to you. We all have people that have been touched by this. And, Aaron and Morgan, just thank you so much. Your stories were inspiring, and we're always here for you.
Absolutely.
That's right. So, okay, as we close out, I want to go and just let's share. Give me 1 second to get there. I apologize. We want to share our sponsors again.
Yeah. So as you see there, all the sponsors' logos are live, and you click on them. You can learn about every one of them. Steered Straight, Drug Free America, 108 Challenge, Cardinal Innovations, Drug Free America, drugfreeworld.org, Sound and Images, Yoke Fellow Prison Ministries, PAL, Parents of Addicted Loved Ones, Save Project, Save, Graphic Connections, Micah Brown Media, Kerry Walters Consulting, Provident Waste Solutions, Convene Communities. We missed one earlier. I apologize to Greg and them guys down there of the Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy, man. Those guys are awesome. Hello, Greg. And then MK Website Consulting. Thank y'all so much. This would not be possible without you guys coming on board and being a part of this wonderful webinar. And as Matt said earlier, we are going to close just like we opened up. This is what this day has been about, is hope and encouragement and rescue. And we'd like to close with Madison Jackson, Thomasville, North Carolina resident. And Madison is a 9th grader, freshman at Ledford High School. She is 15 years of age. She is a sister and a daughter and a cheerleader there. And we are going to close with her.
Yeah, before we do it, though, I just want to tell you thank you. I think, and I want to thank everybody personally for being a part of this. Just go to convenecommunities.com, go to the page, join us in this journey. But Eric,
pleasure, Matt. Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Wonderful. It's been great. And thank you, everybody. But don't leave yet until you watch Madison. If you missed it this morning, this song will bring tears to your eyes. She did an incredible job. And this is what we're all about. So 3 minutes, 32 seconds more. And after this, we'll be done. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of it.
Have a great afternoon.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. Is true, I will rescue you. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. You in the middle of the harness, fight is true. I will rescue you. I hear the whisper underneath your breath. I hear you whisper you have nothing left. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the harness. Fight is true. I will rescue you. I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the harness. Fight